falling back on the author, whether you're independently published or traditionally published, to be the one creating that community around your book, your books, or just your author brand in general. So
I am so excited to have Aryn Van Dyke with me today. She is the founder of Book Rockstar, a company that offers book marketing services to authors like you. So today we're going to talk about book marketing, of course. And Aryn's going to share some of her experiences working with Harper Collins for 5 years in their book marketing department. So she's going to give us a little inside scoop on how that all works with the big five. So Aryn, thank you so much for being here today.
yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, yes, me too. Me too. So I want to talk about this idea that many authors have that if they get a publishing contract with one of the big five, then they won't have to worry about any book marketing. So from your experience, can you share some of the realities of what you actually saw regarding marketing?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of one of those big myths that a lot of authors are buying into. And it's always going to depend on the publisher that you end up working with, if you end up working with one. Do a really great job at providing, guidance and support for their authors in the books. But in a lot of cases, that can only go so far. So there's some publishers out there that they can help with support of, doing advertising. Maybe it's Facebook ads, maybe it's Amazon ads. They might be able to help or provide advertising or visibility at relevant conferences, like maybe a library conference, for example. But at the end of the day, there's only so much that a publisher can accomplish in terms of getting your book visibility. But it really ends up kind of falling back on the author, whether you're independently published or traditionally published, to be the one creating that community around your book, your books, or just your author brand in general. So that's where it's still so important for authors who are taking that traditional, publishing route, to be building up, a presence on social media, to be building up an email list of readers who are wanting to hear about their books, because really, at the end of the day, readers, they want to connect with the authors. They don't always want to connect with the publishers, and there's only so much that a publisher can do at the end of the day. So it would be nice to just to think, all right, I'm going to sign a book deal and I'm going to sit back and relax, and everything's going to be taken care of for me. But while there might be some nice additions that a publisher can offer and provide, there's still a lot of connection that needs to be done between an author and their readers.
Excellent. So with the marketing, with the big, when you were with Harper Collins,
Yeah.
Is it heavy at a book launch and then that dies down a little bit?
Yeah. So it tends to be really focused in that pre-order phase, and then maybe that month, sometimes 2 months after a book launch. But then after that, a publisher is moving on to the next round of books that they've got coming out. So, they've got a limited window that they can provide staff to be working with you and working on these books. So again, that's where that importance can come in for an author to have the kind of control and kind of be empowered to take on marketing strategies, and take on the expectations of doing some marketing, is because after a month or so after the book comes out, a publisher, they need to move on. They've got other projects, and a marketing manager can only take on so much work in the day. So there is that focus on launch that a publisher might be a little bit more helpful for for an author during that period. But then it really falls 100% back on the author if they want to keep their book up in conversations, if they want to keep the the visibility up on maybe retailer websites or, in their own social media feeds, that's really going to, be up to them.
Right. And if somebody's an indie author, they have control over how long that marketing goes. They can market their books for years and years.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's authors out there that have written one book and they continue to talk about that one book over the course of several years. Other authors, they're writing multiple books. And so they're able to, transition and pivot
Right.
a little bit as they've got new stuff coming out. But yeah, it's really, it's up to you how long you want to keep the book coming up and, staying relevant. And that's something if you're willing to put in the work to make that happen, it can stay in the conversation for a long time.
Yes, I agree 100%. Yes, which is why I like being an indie author because I have that control over how long my book, as you said, I
Exactly.
like how you keep saying part of the conversation as opposed to
Yeah.
like just selling it to somebody. It's more that
Mhm.
engagement. So I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is something you believe the big five do really well that indie authors could also be doing more of?
I would say um it probably comes down more to just the overall planning for marketing and even planning out like the messaging around a book as well, or just the different ways that a book can be connecting with that kind of end reader. So that's something, at a big publishing house, you've got usually a marketing lead, maybe the editor who's working on a project. They can sit down together and put a marketing plan in place, and that's something they can present to the author. And so that way there's a very clear plan of, all right, over these next several months, this is what's going to be happening. This is when stuff is going to be happening. And that's something I think more independent authors can start adopting, that same
Right.
mentality. Say, all right, my book is coming, I'm planning to, release a book in 6 months. So I'm going to sit down, now ahead of the launch window, and really
Mhm.
put together a marketing plan to ensure that my book is going to get visibility in the right places. So I would say that's just one of the biggest kind of changes that can be made on the independent side, because that's the big five publishers, and even other traditional publishers, they've got this point in the process that is anywhere from 6 months to 9 months before a book comes out, that they're sitting down and saying, all right, what are we going to do with this book so that it's seen by as many people as possible? So that's something, if independent authors can start putting that into their whole publishing calendar and publishing schedule, it can end up making a bigger difference for them by the time the book is kind of hitting retailer websites.
That's great advice. I think um, myself included, we get impatient. The book's done. We just want to put it
Yeah,
out there. But
yeah.
what you're saying makes complete sense. So give it some time and build up that so you have a successful book launch.
Yeah, and it can even, I mean, you can even start thinking about creating a marketing plan even during the writing process as well. I know that,
Mm.
I mean, it depends on kind of the time management and how, how much extra time you might have to be dedicating to the writing portion,
Sure.
but there's certain things that can also be done in tandem. So you can be writing and have an idea for, all right, my deadline for my draft is going to be X weeks from now, and then it's going to be going to an editor. But in this whole, kind of timeline and process, you can start thinking about different marketing ideas and start putting together a plan. Even if that plan, you're not going to start on it for maybe another 4 months, it's
Right.
still, you can be doing that kind of alongside of writing and editing.
Very true. Excellent. So is there anything that indie authors, self-published authors can do better than the big five with their marketing?
That's a great question. I would say with indie authors, there's a lot more. I would say just there's not that red tape that might come up that you might run into with these bigger publishers. So you can get a lot more like creative and scrappy and not have to Maybe go through the like big old legal departments that certain publishers have. Of course,
Mhm.
you want to make sure that whatever you're doing does fall like into like legal guidelines, but there's just some of that extra like red tape where if an author has this kind of crazy and innovative idea, sometimes it needs to go through some more approval processes to say, oh, we can do that or we can't do that. Whereas,
Right.
when you're on your own, you kind of have those open decisions. I mean, one of the I think biggest like flexible pieces that an independent author has control of is even the like the price point for books. So if an independent author wants to do a really unique promotion, whether it's for an ebook or even for a physical book, there's a lot more control than over saying, I'm gonna do this really special limited time promotion, and you've got the control over setting what that price is. Whereas working with a bigger publisher, sometimes there's those extra approval processes, and you're more likely to hear no to in terms of like switching pricing, even if it could be a really great opportunity for additional visibility for a
Mhm.
book.
Okay. What do you see common mistakes from indie authors when it comes to marketing?
I mean, I would say the most common mistake would just be kind of doing taking no action. I think that's really, I mean, that's like the most, I think, the basic answer is just a lot of authors who are afraid to take that first
Mhm.
step and, maybe afraid to learn a new program or platform that might be helpful for them. But if we want to get a little bit more, granular, I'd say one of the other things that I see maybe lacking in marketing strategy is not having that clear idea of who the reader is and what the best ways to connect with that reader through content, whether it's content through social media, whether it's content through an email newsletter. So it's really thinking about what's going to connect with that reader. Is it
Mhm.
including more humor in my social media posts? Is it making sure I'm calling out specific, plot points or specific tropes that I know that, my reader would enjoy. So it's trying to like, step into the shoes of your reader and think, what would I want to see content wise to know that, oh, this is a book I would be interested in versus seeing something and maybe a lot of authors just aren't giving enough information about their books at the forefront to let a reader know that's something that they might actually enjoy or that might be a book for them. So I would say that's something that authors can start doing better to make sure that they're able to connect with a wider and kind of greater number of readers.
Right. And if somebody has a small budget, because I think like when somebody has, they put out their first book or their second book, they probably don't have that income coming in yet. So is it possible to do effective marketing, like on even $50 a month, $100 a month?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes. So, and what I've said before is that when there is a more of a limit on a financial budget, then you have to think about more of investing in terms of a time budget. So
Okay.
there's a lot of really great marketing opportunities that can be on the organic side. So with social media, for example, there's a lot of content that you can start creating that could attract a wider audience or attract more readers in your target. But it requires that investment of time to sit down and say, all right, I'm gonna set up my phone on a tripod and take a few videos that might be good for me to post on TikTok or post on Instagram, or I might need to sit down and write out some different Facebook posts that might be relevant. So there's certainly strategies and tactics that can be done on a small budget, but then you need to kind of rewire the mindset to then invest the time in it. And then if you do have that, even a smaller financial budget, you can
Mhm.
think about, maybe testing out some, advertising with a small budget that can start getting you even in front of a couple thousand more, potential
Right.
readers. Whether that's through, Facebook or Instagram ads, whether that's through, setting up an Amazon ad campaign, whether it's, finding a platform like CraveBooks that can get you out in front of that like targeted readership that you have. So
Right.
there's definitely things that you can be doing on that smaller financial budget, and certainly a lot that you can do if you've only got a time budget.
Sure. Sure. And I know you mentioned social media. And some people, they just have no desire whatsoever. Is it possible to be effective with your book marketing without doing social media?
Yeah, I think I mean it's not, it's not necessarily like a black and white answer. I would say
Sure.
then it gets a little bit more gray. Because without social media, then you might then have to spend some time learning different platforms that then allow you to reach different readers. And that might then require you to focus on maybe finding more of that financial budget that can help you get in
Mhm.
front of more of those borrowed audiences. So the great thing with social media is that it can help you start to build up an audience of your own. It's the same like with email as well, and
Sure.
collecting email addresses. It gives you a chance to start building your own community. But if social media is something you don't want to focus on, then you'll need to then focus on finding platforms that you can borrow. And a lot of times that means that it's likely that you are paying to borrow them for a certain amount of time. So I mean, even thinking about the CraveBooks platform, you're paying to kind of borrow this audience of targeted romance readers or fantasy readers. So it's certainly possible to do marketing, but then you just have to shift that focus a little bit
Sure.
and have that expectation that I can reach these people. It just might require a little bit more of a financial commitment because I'm needing to borrow what someone else has kind of gone out and curated.
Sure. And it makes me think of like being, which might not cost money, but a guest blogger or be on a podcast, things
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's again where it's thinking too of the again that time budget to say, all right, well, I'm
Sure.
going to spend you know 30 minutes on a Monday morning going and researching relevant podcasts, writing out my pitch, and hitting send, or fill in guest blogs. So there's definitely definitely
Sure.
ways to do it. It's just that expectation of saying, I need to, really dedicate this much time and commit this much time, or I need to commit maybe, $50 a month or $100 a month to do it.
Right. And I know you do a lot of focusing with your company on nonfiction. So
Mhm.
are there different, so many marketing articles, podcasts, things like that talk about fiction. So are there specific things that nonfiction authors should do that's maybe a little bit different than fiction?
Yeah, there's always just a different approach to like maybe the content creation or like the messaging around a book.
Hmm.
Because nonfiction is usually a bit more focused on maybe solving a problem or maybe showing somebody a different viewpoint of maybe like a certain situation. So in that case, it's just thinking a little bit more about how can I have content, whether it's through social media, email, like podcast interviews, is how can I now talk about this book to let people know that it can get them from point A to point B. So it's got a little bit of a different kind of focus on it, whereas fiction, you're maybe thinking a little bit more about the experience, and is this going to be a theme that readers of fantasy books will enjoy? Is it something that's going to be kind of relevant to them, or is it going to be something that they're not interested in? Whereas nonfiction, it's saying, all right, how can I communicate to somebody that I can help them become a better business leader by
Hmm.
doing X, Y, and Z. So it's a lot of the same, it's a lot of the same avenues and platforms. It's just changing up the approach to those platforms.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. So if we talked about budget. So if somebody's like, I don't want to do marketing at all, they can reach out to somebody like you to hire and to help with the book marketing. So can you talk a little bit about Book Rockstar, what services you offer, and then, or maybe start with why you started the company and then tell us how you can help authors?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, I started the company. I moved overseas back in 2019, and so that's why I ended up leaving the my role at Harper Collins. And what I kind of realized is that there's a lot that I was able to learn about book marketing from just some of the best in the Christian nonfiction space that you know these are a lot of strategies that other authors can start implementing. It doesn't mean that, if you start doing things this way, you're gonna, in one day or in the snap of a finger become, this ultra best-selling author. But it starts, I kind of realized that there's things that authors can start thinking about or doing differently that can start getting them in front of more readers. And so
Mhm.
that was kind of my initial goal with Book Rockstar, is to say, these are the things that other authors are doing that have led them to, find success. And, I'm going to teach you how to do those same types of things. So, it's kind of formed now into working both with nonfiction authors, as well as fiction authors, and helping them curate, marketing plans that are going to be the best way for them to get their book out in front of more readers. So it's helping them build strategies around, social media and content creation, helping them build strategies around collecting additional email addresses and, knowing what to send out to an email list, helping them with, advertising strategy. And then in some cases too, actually being the one to go in and actually get those
Okay.
ads set up for them. So it's, I'd say there's some different levels, but it's a lot of teaching authors what to do, when to do it, and then also how to do it. And
Mhm.
then and because really my main hope and focus is to empower as many authors as I can to kind of take that marketing strategy and have that marketer hat that they can put on,
Right.
so that way they've got control over the process and kind of have that confidence to move forward and get their books out in front of more people. But then in some cases, I am happy to step in and be the one that can take on the actual implementation pieces for them. But I always like for an author to understand still the strategy behind
Right.
why we're doing what we're doing.
So you can do as like be that support, or for somebody who really wants to be completely hands off, you can
Yeah,
step in and do that. That's great.
yeah, absolutely.
And what is the website for Book Rockstar?
So bookrockstar.com. So that will have all of the different resources. I've got a free book marketing guide up on my website as well. So if anyone
Great.
wants just a kind of a free guide to point them in the right direction, give them a fresh idea, that's available. And then there's just different information about the services that I offer on there as well.
That's great. And by the way, your logo is amazing.
Oh,
So
thank you.
people are just going to have to go to the website to see what that amazing logo is. So,
Oh, thank you.
all right, we're going to move in, wrap this up, and go into our lightning round. So I'm going to give
Okay.
you a phrase, and then you're going to finish that. All right?
All right. So good.
Ready? The most important lesson I've learned about book marketing is,
Really connecting with the target reader that you are trying to reach with that particular book.
all right, when I first started Book Rockstar, I wish I had known.
Oh boy, this one's tough. I would say, wish I had known how many authors needed even just a little bit of support, or just one more idea for them to take on.
Excellent. All right. One marketing strategy that has significantly increased authors' book sales is.
I would say really mastering the like strategy and concepts behind Amazon ads.
Excellent. In 10 years, I see the world of self-publishing.
Ooh, I would say thriving. I think self-publishing has come a long way even in the last 4 years. So I can only imagine opportunities and possibilities are going to be available in 10 years' time.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Aryn, for chatting with me today. And everyone should go check out Book Rockstar.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.